Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2021 Korvest AGM. It is now 11 o'clock in South Australia, and as a quorum is present, I declare the meeting open. By way of introduction, my name is Andrew Stobart, and I'm your company's chairman. Even though the travel restrictions mean that we are unable to all be in the same place today, I'm joined by my fellow directors, Mr. Chris Hartwig, Gary Francis, Gerard Hutchinson, Stephen McGregor. Darren Ball of the company's auditors, KPMG, is also with us today and is able to answer any questions later in the meeting. Today's meeting is being held online via the Lumi platform. This allows shareholders, proxies and guests to attend the meeting virtually. All attendees can watch a live webcast of the meeting. In addition, shareholders and proxies have the ability to ask questions and submit votes. To ask a question, select the messaging tab at the top of the Lumi platform. At the top of that tab, there is a section for you to type your question. Once you have finished typing, please hit the arrow symbol to send. If you have a question, I recommend that you submit it now, rather than waiting for the specific item of business that it relates to. This will ensure that we can respond to your question at the appropriate time. It would also assist if you include the resolution number your question relates to. Also note that your questions may be moderated, or if there are multiple questions on one topic, amalgamated together. In the event that a late question comes in or a resolution has been completed, we will endeavour to answer that prior to the end of the meeting. Our Company Secretary, Stephen McGregor, will receive these questions and ask them on your behalf. For those shareholders who wish to ask a verbal question, an audio questions facility is available during the meeting. To use this service, please pause the broadcast on the Lumi platform and then click on the link under Asking Audio Questions. A new page will open where you'll be prompted to enter your name and the topic of your question before being connected. You will listen to the meeting on this page while waiting to ask your question. If you have any issues with the system, please return to the Lumi platform. All resolutions at today's meeting will be determined by a poll, and I now declare voting open on all items of business. If you are eligible to vote at this meeting, a new voting tab will appear. Selecting this tab will bring up a list of resolutions and present you with voting options. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. There is no need to press the submit or enter button as the vote is automatically recorded. You do, however, have the ability to change your vote up until the time I declare the voting closed. I will provide ample notice prior to the close of voting. I appoint Nigel Bulling of Computershare Investor Services to be the returning officer and to conduct the poll. The results of the poll will be determined after the conclusion of the meeting and published on the ASX announcements platform. We have not received any apologies for the meeting. I'll now read the minutes of the 50th Annual General Meeting held on the 23rd of October 2020. The minutes have been signed as a true record of the proceedings of that meeting. Copies of the minutes are available by contacting the Company Secretary. A summary of the proxies for each resolution will be shown on the screen when I put the resolution to the meeting. Notice of meeting. The notice of meeting was available to all shareholders and I propose that it be taken as read. I will now present my chairman's address. This morning I'll be commenting on the key aspects of the last financial year before handing over to Chris Hartwig to provide more detail on both last year and the year ahead. As this is my first AGM as chairman, I would like to start by talking about changes that have occurred on the board since we met last year. In August, Graham Billings resigned as chairman and director due to increasing demands in other public company roles. Graham joined the board in May 2013 as chairman of the audit committee, and in September 2014 was appointed as chairman of the board. On behalf of the board and shareholders, I would like to thank Graham for his service and significant contribution to Korvest during his period of tenure. In anticipation of Graham's departure, the board conducted a search for a replacement director, and we are fortunate to have secured Therese Ryan to fill the vacancy. Therese has a legal background and brings a wealth of experience from her executive career with General Motors in China and General Motors and Qenos in Australia. She serves on a number of other boards, including another public company, and we expect that Korvest will benefit from her exposure to these other businesses. For those not familiar with my background, I joined the Korvest board in August 2016. My executive experience was in the same industrial markets as that serviced by Korvest. I was the managing director of Olex Holdings Proprietary Limited and led its divestment from Pacific Dunlop in a management buyout, and then subsequently to its sale to Nexans Spa. Under Nexans ownership, I was executive chairman of Nexans Olex Australia and New Zealand until I retired in February 2020. F21 finished strongly, with revenue increasing to 69.8 million, up 10.6% on the previous year. The strong finish to the year is evidenced by the fact that the first half revenue was 9.7% down on the corresponding half in the prior year. The group recorded a net profit after tax of 6.1 million in financial year 21 compared to $4 million in the previous year. Increased major project supplies and improved small project and day-to-day activity underpin the result. I'll ask Chris Hartwig to comment on this in more detail and on the financial year 21 year shortly. For the past 2 years, Korvest has made significant investment in the Kilburn site to improve capacity and capability. There will always be ongoing stay-in-business investment required, and during F21, the galvanising acid tanks were replaced as a consequence. The strategic decision to invest in automation, capacity and efficiency in the Kilburn factory continued, and a significant portion of FY21 expenditure can be characterised in this way. From both a cost reduction and environmental perspective, a 270 kilowatt of additional solar generating capacity was installed on the Kilburn warehouse roof in May 2021. We expect that this will both lower electricity costs and reduce carbon emissions by in excess of 200 tonnes per year. We recently announced the sale of the PowerStep and Titan businesses. Whilst these businesses had improved their profitability over the past few years, the board determined that they were not core businesses and that there was no strategic alignment or synergies with the Easy Strut and galvanising businesses. The sale completed in September 2021 and will result in a pre-tax profit of approximately $0.5 million in FY 2022, after taking into account the costs of the sale. So in terms of the current year to date and the outlook, in our 2021 annual report, it was noticed that as a result of the unprecedented levels of large project work, coupled with a buoyant general market, Korvest entered FY22 with record levels of work on hand. At the 7th of October, we provided a trading update to the market outlining that the pull forward of major project supply and an ongoing buoyant general market means that we now expect that the first half profit before tax will exceed $8 million. This does include the $0.5 million profit on the sale of PowerStep and Titan mentioned previously. The accelerated delivery of major project work in early FY22 compared to major project deliveries later in the year means that the outstanding first half performance will likely taper in the second half. I would now like to hand over to Chris Hartwig, Managing Director of Korvest, to provide more detail on last year's performance and future. Chris.
Thank you, Andrew. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'll be reflecting on the 2021 financial year and will also provide an update on the current trading conditions and key focus areas for Korvest going forward. I'll start with some comments regarding our safety and environmental performance. Safety is a core value for Korvest and was subject to additional focus during the year. Despite these efforts, our performance has stagnated and remains a key area for improvement going forward. This year was our first full year of operation for a particular filter in galvanising. Dust emissions from the main plant are now negligible, with approximately 2 tonnes of dust captured and sold during the year. We commissioned the additional 270 kilowatt solar system in May, taking our total solar generation to 443 kilowatts. We've developed a noise management plan with a number of key initiatives designed to minimise noise output from our plant. Looking forward, we'll continue to review our environmental performance and seek opportunities for continual improvement. As Andrew has already highlighted, financial year 2021 was a very successful year for Korvest, with a significant improvement in both revenue and profitability. Managing the effects of COVID-19 has been a continual focus for the business. Korvest has been fortunate that, other than some short shutdowns, the construction sector has been able to continue to operate across Australia. The largest impact of COVID-19 has been the effect on world steel pricing and availability, the availability of labour, shipping lead times and shipping costs. Where possible, these cost increases have been passed on via price rises, but the rapid nature of these increases provides an ongoing challenge across the business. The increases in raw materials and subsequent selling prices have resulted in increased working capital requirements for stock and debtors that have extended into financial year 2022. In the Industrial Products Group, the Easy Strut business had an excellent year, with activity skewed towards the second half. We continued to supply one major infrastructure project throughout the year and also commenced supply on 2 further infrastructure projects during the fourth quarter. The win rate achieved by Easy Strut for these major projects has been very high. This is a direct result of strategic initiatives taken over the past few years to grow our factory capability and capacity, as well as invest in our engineering and project management teams. Aside from major project work, the day-to-day and wholesaler segments enjoyed solid growth. The factory performed well throughout the year and has now moved to paperless production, providing real-time factory data. We have added a significant number of factory workers late in the financial year in response to factory demand. CapEx in the factory remains focused on productivity and capacity projects. Key highlights include the commissioning of the IXL tray and strut lines and robotic tray stacking. A low light has been the continual delays with commissioning of the automated ladder weld cell. This cell is a turnkey purchase from a large multinational automation supplier. COVID travel restrictions have contributed to commissioning delays, and the supplier is working hard to finalise commissioning. The Power Step and Titan businesses had a solid year and contributed a small profit. As already mentioned by Andrew, these businesses were sold after the end of the financial year and hopefully will thrive under new ownership. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff for their efforts and wish them well for the future. In the production group, the galvanising business enjoyed improved volume in both plants. This growth led to an improvement in profitability. The majority of the volume growth came from the increasing levels of internal volume. The Gawler Rail electrification upgrade was the major local project for the year. Whilst the average cost of zinc consumed was 5% lower than the prior financial year, this trend has since reversed. The increase in zinc pricing on the London Metal Exchange, coupled with a falling Australian dollar, has resulted in current zinc purchase prices being at close to the highest levels in the past 10 years. This has necessitated ongoing price rises to our customers. Reduced gas pricing has been locked in for calendar years 2021 and 2022. Korvest remains focused on improving our business and taking advantage of the strong day-to-day market and infrastructure pipeline. As highlighted by the recent trading update, Korvest entered financial year 2022 with record levels of work on hand. These high levels of work on hand have been driven by key road and rail tunnel projects in both New South Wales and Victoria. Activity on these projects has been high, with supply being brought forward to meet construction timelines. Previous decisions to improve factory capacity and capability have allowed Korvest to be able to respond to these requirements. Korvest expects that this high level activity will continue for the remainder of the first half. Whilst the business will enter the second half with high levels of work on hand, it is expected that the delivery schedules will result in some tapering of requirements. A further update on expectations for the second half will be provided with the release of the results for the first half. COVID-19 remains a challenge and risk for the business. We've seen some short construction shutdowns early in the first half. To date, these have not had a material effect on production and delivery levels. Korvest has provided staff with paid time off for vaccinations with a solid take-up rate. Our recent high levels of capital expenditure will continue during financial year 2022. We will see delivery of the new fibre laser cutter and guillotine in the first half, along with the second robotic bracket welding cell. These and other capital projects will improve productivity and provide a safer work environment. Thank you for your time, and I'll now hand the meeting back to the chairman.
Thank you, Chris. I will now turn to the formal part of the meeting. As I mentioned earlier, voting is open for all resolutions. So you may cast your vote on any resolution from now up until the close of voting. As required by the Corporations Act, the financial report, the director's report and the auditor's report for the group for the financial year ended 30th of June 2021 are presented to this meeting for consideration. No resolutions is required for this item of business. Company Secretary, can you please advise if there are any questions or comments in relation to the financial statements or the Chairman's and Managing Director's addresses?
Yes, Chairman, we have a couple of questions that probably relate to these areas, both from the same shareholder, Damarung Proprietary Limited. The first relates to the ladder weld cell. Could management please comment on the progress being made in the commissioning of the robotic ladder weld cell? What is the performance of the robotic ladder weld cell against its pre-installation investment case?
Chris, if I could hand that question to you to answer, please.
Thank you, Andrew. The cell has been completely installed and is still undergoing the commissioning phase. There have been some programming issues that have been uncovered where the cell hasn't quite operated as it should. And it's been difficult to get the programs across here from either Melbourne or New Zealand. What we have done and what the contractor has organised is for some external contractors now to be on site, and we have two of those here full-time commissioning the cell. The cell's capable of making the product, but it's more a matter of making it reliably make the product so that we don't have any faults that come up during the process. In terms of meeting the required speeds and CapEx requirements, it's too early to say, but we don't anticipate any major problems in that regard. In terms, we think the cell is extremely capable. It's just really a matter of having it operating reliably. So it is making product, albeit under direction of contractors. And I think it's still a couple of months away from being ready to hand over, being fully commissioned.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Chris.
The second question, which probably fits as best here as anywhere else, is given Korvest's current performance, a poor acquisition track record and a surfeit of franking credits, could the Korvest board look to increase the dividend payout ratio to shareholders in the short term?
Thank you, Stephen. The Korvest has always adhered to our dividend payout policy, which is in the range of 65 to 90%. And we would expect to continue with that policy. Decisions regarding the dividend payout, of course, will be made, the interim dividend payment will be made, of course, at the end of the first half in calendar year 2022, and any decisions regarding any change to our dividend payout or any special dividends will be made at that time. Thank you. Any other questions, Stephen?
No, there are no further questions, Andrew.
Okay, so we now move to the resolutions requiring a vote. It is worth noting that certain shareholders are excluded from voting on various resolutions at today's meeting. These exclusions are detailed in the notice of meeting. As chairman, I've been appointed as proxy by a number of shareholders, and despite the fact that I'm unable to vote personally on some resolutions, I am able to and intend to vote on open proxies in favour of all resolutions, on behalf of all shareholders who have validly appointed me as their proxy. Resolution 1, the Remuneration Report. This is a non-binding ordinary resolution required by law. I will take as read the Remuneration Report contained in the Directors' Report in the 2021 Financial Report. I will now move that the Remuneration Report for the year ended 30th of June 2021 be adopted for the purposes of Section 250R(2) of the Corporations Act. Stephen, have we received any questions?
We've received one question, Chairman, from a Mr. Brian Benja, who asks, why are your CEO and CFO paid virtually the same?
Why are the CEO and the CFO paid virtually the same?
Yes.
Okay, I'll answer that question. The salary that we pay our management are paid in accordance with what we determine to be market competitive rates. We have a process by which salaries for the executive are periodically reviewed by using independent remuneration advice, and it's those guidelines and recommendations that we adopt. I might ask the head of the Remuneration Committee, Gary Francis, if he has any further comments.
Thanks, Andrew. Yes, look, both CFO and CEO base, which I think this is the question that's referring to the base salaries, we believe are market rates. But it's probably worth noting that once you put STIs and LTIs, the CFO is certainly has less at risk and certainly a lower total remuneration as opposed to the CEO, who clearly, as by our current annual report can be seen, has a reasonable upside in salary, but is at risk. So I think we're due to our independent advice we've taken from time to time, I believe we're very much within our guidelines.
Thank you, Gary. Stephen, are there any further questions in regard to the Remuneration Report?
No, there aren't.
Okay, thank you. Please note that the details of the proxy votes in regards to this resolution are now shown on the screen. You are invited to lodge your vote for Resolution 1 by using the polling icon. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. There is no need to press the Submit or Enter button as the vote is automatically recorded. You do, however, have the ability to change your vote up until the time I declare voting closed. I will now move to the next item of business. Resolution 2, re-election of directors. In accordance with the provisions of the company's constitution, Gerard Hutchinson retires from the board and, being eligible for re-election, offers himself for re-election. Gerard Hutchinson was appointed as a non-executive director in November 2014 and is the chairman of the Audit Committee. He was last re-elected as a director of the company in 2018. The board unanimously recommends his re-election. I now move that Gerard Hutchinson, a director retiring by rotation in accordance with the company's constitution and being eligible for re-election, be re-elected as a director of the company. Stephen, have we received any questions in regard to this resolution?
No, we haven't.
Thank you. Please note that the details of the proxy votes are now shown on the screen. You are invited to lodge your vote for Resolution 2 by using the polling icon. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. I will now move to the next item of business, Resolution 3, the re-election of Therese Ryan. Therese Ryan was appointed to the board in September of this year to fill the vacancy created by Graham Billings' retirement. Therese has extensive experience as a senior business executive and commercial lawyer working in widely diversified businesses in both Australia and internationally. The board unanimously recommends her re-election. I now move that Ms. Therese Ryan, a director retiring after being appointed to fill a casual vacancy in accordance with the company's constitution and being eligible for re-election, be re-elected as a director of the company. Stephen, have we received any questions?
No, we haven't.
Thank you. Please note that the details of the proxy votes are now shown on the screen. You are invited to lodge your vote for Resolution 3 by using the polling icon. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. I will now move to the next item of business. Resolution 4, the issue of performance rights for Chris Hartwig. In accordance with the provisions of the Korvest Performance Rights Plan, it has been proposed that Chris Hartwig be invited to apply for 19,530 performance rights. The terms of the performance rights are outlined in the notice of meeting and use the same two performance measures as have been used for the past couple of years. Half of the rights issued will be tested against each of the two performance measures. I now move that for the purposes of ASX Listing Rule 10.14, approval is given for the grant of 19,530 performance rights to Mr. Chris Hartwig under the Korvest Performance Rights Plan. Stephen, have we received any questions?
No, we haven't.
Please note that the details of the proxy votes are now shown on the screen. You are invited to lodge your vote for Resolution 4 by using the polling icon. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. I will now move to the next item of business, Resolution 5, the issue of performance rights for Mr. Stephen McGregor. The terms of the performance rights proposed to be issued to Stephen McGregor carry the same conditions and hurdles as those for Chris Hartwig. I now move that for the purposes of ASX Listing Rule 10.14, approval is given for the grant of 18,710 performance rights to Stephen McGregor under the Korvest Performance Rights Plan. Chris, have we received any questions in regard to this resolution?
No, Andrew, we haven't.
Thank you. Please note that the details of the proxy votes are now shown on the screen. You are invited to lodge your vote for Resolution 5 by using the polling icon. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. So that brings us now to the end of the resolutions. Shortly, I will be closing the voting system. So please ensure that you have cast your vote on all 5 resolutions. Stephen, before I close the voting, are there any questions on any resolutions or any other matters that we have not yet addressed?
No, Andrew, we haven't received any other questions.
Okay, thank you. I will now pause for a minute to allow you all time to finalise your votes. Shareholders are reminded that your board strongly recommends that you vote in favour of all resolutions. Okay, I now declare the poll closed and formally charge Mr. Bulling as returning officer to count the votes. I advise that the formal business of the meeting is now complete. I now declare the meeting closed. The results of the poll will be lodged on the ASX announcements platforms once they have been finalised. Thank you all shareholders and guests who have joined us today. And the meeting is now closed. Thank you.